Hey, this is Lee. We're going to do another JavaScript lesson with our calculator. We are going to make it so we can keep adding and adding and adding. Like 5 plus 2 plus 3. Like we can just keep going. Minus 8 divided by 2. Just keep going as long as you want. Okay, and then maybe we'll work on CSS a little more next time. We'll see if that's the end of our calculator or not. Okay, so and how to use JavaScript to change the CSS. Okay, we want to work on that too. So how did I do that? Let me show you what I added to the code. There were two things I needed to work on. One, when I hit the operator, I wanted to find the answer, right? When I hit it again, I wanted to find the answer. So that's one thing I added in. And then I also wanted to see how it emptied out and just wrote that in there. Because if you just kept typing it, it would just go out across the page like this. We couldn't just keep building and building and building and building. So those are the two things I worked on. That's not useful. So another thing you could add to the JavaScript are things like that. How to, if the last thing you hit was an operator, you can't hit another operator. Or if you did, take off the old one from the screen and put that one on. I guess that's what you'd want to do. But anyway, there's lots more things we could do to make it more sophisticated. So maybe we'll keep working on it. We'll see. Okay, back to work. So how did I accomplish those things? Two things. I created something called a variable called click. Called it 1. I could have called it 0 and then put click plus plus as the first thing on here. Have the same result. Anyway, if click sets every time you click on a number, it's going to go click plus plus, which is the same as click equals click plus 1, right? So every time it's just incrementing one more. So when they click on the number, it's going to say, is click over 8? If it is, return. Return means go back, get out of here. It's going to end this function and come out of it. So that's a useful thing, especially with your if statements. If it's like this, then forget it. Don't run, don't run this code. So here's the end of the function here. It's going to get you out all the way down to here. So it's not going to add it. So what happens here is writing the number on the page. So if you've already written 8 numbers on there, it's not going to let you write anymore. And then when you click on like plus or minus or whatever, if your click is high, then it's going to take 5 off to give you some more space. I just pick these numbers. I don't know that it's a perfect solution. And then one last thing I did with that was when you get down to the answer, if you had a big number, if click was greater than 8, then empty the screen to write the answer on the page. Just because I figured if they're big numbers, they could have a really big answer. And then at this thing, to reset click, I wanted click to equal however many digits were in the number of the answer, right? If there are already 10 digits on there and then I hit plus, I don't want to be able to add on a whole bunch more numbers, the screen will get full. So click is going to equal the length of the answer. And to do that, this dot length is something we use a lot, is very useful. Dot length. Okay, all I do is put it onto the string and it'll tell me how many characters are in the string. But I needed to change the number into a string first. So I just called the variable answer length, and that's answer dot to string. And so now the computer can think of it as a string, and then we can find its length. And we'll find length of other things. That length is really useful for something called arrays, which we will get to. So click equals however many digits are there. So now to do the adding thing, one thing I did was took all this stuff used to happen when you clicked equal. When you clicked equal, then it found the answer, right? It added or multiplied or divided. So I pulled all that out and called it a function find answer, which is called here under equal. That way we can find the answer when we click on plus. Okay, now notice there's a whole bunch of code that was the same for all of these. So I pulled that out into a function. I called it more. Like if you want to do more, not just push 1 plus 2 equals 3, but you want to do more, plus 4, plus 5, plus 6. I pulled that out, and I have this thing about the click. I'm giving some more space. And then if your current number equals 2, like if you have 2 numbers defined, then find the answer. Empty the screen and put on number 1. Okay, and then it's gonna, that was the end of more, and so it's gonna come back. That was part of the plus function, was more. So it emptied the screen, it finds the answer, empties the screen, put on number 1. Now number 1 now equals the answer. So that's what I did down here. It's the only thing I had to change when you want to keep adding and or keep multiplying, whatever you're doing. If you want to keep doing it, all you need to do is take that answer and add it to the next number. So you're adding to keep it simple, just add it to the next number. So really we just need number 1 to equal the answer, and then we just need one more number entered onto the screen. So answer equals number 1, and then we're set to go. So that this number 1 here is that answer that just happened. So we find the answer, we empty the screen, that answer goes on as number 1, and then this is where we are in our code. And then we append the sign, and we're ready for the next number to get entered in on there. Right, I think that's all the changes to the code. I guess click goes back to 1. That's how I have it at the top. So let's give it a try. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 times 4 divided by 6 minus 2 equals. Okay, so you can see how that works. And the other thing, if we add a whole bunch, it won't let me type anymore, right? And then I hit equals, really big number. Now what happens if I try and add more? It's only gonna let me add that much more. It's like, you're full, that's all you get. So it just kind of protects it from just going all the way across the page. All right, that's our lesson for today. You can find the code on the blog, and remember, use the console to look for, if you want to make sure something's happening. So here I was writing what click was, so just to check to make sure that was working. If you're not sure, that it's even going to this place, you put a little note in here, log to the console, I'm dividing. So you can just have like a read through what's happening. Okay, so I pulled out functions. That's one of the things I did here. And another good thing about that, like if I want to change, like I went back and added this click stuff in after I had done the continuing to add part. And so I only had to put it here. If I just left all the code, had copy and pasted this into each one, I'd have to copy and paste that into each one. But when it's a separate function, I can make changes in one place, and then it works everywhere that function's called. You don't have to think of all the places you use that. And then the big thing was return, using return in your code to get out of a function. Never mind, I don't want to do this. If this is the case, then I don't want to do this function. I'll see you next lesson.